Alrighty guys, so some of you have seen the clip I posted here on Twitter, on the YouTube page, everything like that. Me watching the panel and then having my question asked. I'm gonna have a full panel segment video coming out soon, so be sure to subscribe or follow or whatever. But here's the Q&A part. We're gonna jump right into the Q&A and you'll get to see some of the most panic response from Taylor Lorenz, outside of someone who thought the whole audience was gonna be on her side, because everyone was, and the whole vibe in the room shifted after I asked my question. I just was curious, Taylor, this is all about misinformation, right? And then with so much coming out and so many editor critiques and changes to some of your work lately with people like Ricada and Umbrella Guy and Legal Bites, who 2 of the 3 are lawyers, right? And they were covering that trial. How can we take what you're telling us about misinformation seriously?
That's a really good question. So I think what you're bringing up is actually a misinformation campaign. So what happened recently is an editor put this like boilerplate line in my story saying like, oh, you know, we reached out to these 2 people for comment. We actually absolutely like, you know, it was just like an erroneous line that he added. I flagged it immediately, it gets, you know, taken down. But instead of the news organization kind of recognizing, oh, this is just this bad fake campaign over nothing line. By the way, we did reach out to them for comment immediately after the story. They were both basically like, fuck off. She's like, oh, all that should have happened is a simple line saying, oh, you know, previous version said we should reach out for comment. We've since reached out to them, they've declined, right? That's all you need to say. However, I think what happened is you saw these types of campaigns really effectively exploit our newsrooms. And they kind of kept pushing and harassing our editors, and were flooded with thousands of emails and threats and horrible things. My family's doxxed, I'm doxxed. All of this stuff happens, they make it trending, they make it controversy, and then you see the editors scrambling, oh my gosh, do we need to put more? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? And it becomes this whole bad faith sort of outrage cycle. And I think that people's misunderstanding and kind of recognition of, hey, like, you know, Umbrella Guy, I'm sure you know who this guy is, like, you know, he was heavily involved in other sort of movements to attack women in these ways. And so I think we need to be really aware of how these things operate, and that our media organizations need to not freak out and react and try and kind of quell the mob. Just say, hey, wow, like, this is a mob, this is not engaged in anything. You know, certainly there was no corrections that you know, fundamental, and nothing in that story was like you know, we spoke to influencers with millions of followers, right? They were like, there's no fundamental issue in the story other than an editor added this erroneous line that was immediately fixed. But you see, right? I mean, EJ, I think you saw it as well, like just sort of how these things can, people can be so misinformed.
I think the editors oftentimes prioritize de-escalating audience reaction over protecting the journalist. And it's happened to me, it's happened to you, and they do goofy stuff, man. I mean, your thing wasn't goofy, but what happened with me in LA Times was like goofy as hell. Like, and you didn't see because it was on a much smaller level, but my editor, somebody was like, called me an influencer who just reads headlines. I like tweeted about it. They were like, you're harassing me. I was like, I never named you. It went on this whole entire thing. My editor jumped in to be like, we stand by V. They're doing a real journalism. She wrote back and said like, I hope this doesn't burn a bridge for me at LA Times. And my editor wrote back, no, you do such great work. We're so proud of you. And I was like, Samantha, you have just empowered the woman who was bullying me.
See, here's the
problem. But
it's
silly sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes, but it's always an editor trying to de-escalate or prioritize an audience reaction because that's more normal to them. It's like getting a letter to the editor or something.
I think I wrote a good Twitter thread on this, if I do say so myself, with the help of our PR team.
Yeah.
But just, you know, we need to recognize bad faith attacks when they're happening, and we need to recognize networked harassment, and we need to sort of talk about that stuff. And I think most people don't have to I don't have time to understand the back and forth, right? I don't understand why is Taylor Lorenz controversial, right? Or why are people coming for V? I guess she's problematic. Like, that's the takeaway. And so I think like this is why we need to educate people about the media ecosystem and the creator economy, for a better word, so that we can say, like, people can see those things and they can say, oh, this is just bad faith bullshit, right?
But everything is content. So for that person who had like a tiny little dig on me or whatever, it became like 16 videos for her.
Yeah, right, of course, and that's their incentive.
And I also want to say, in your defense, like, a lot of the issues that were at stake with that particular campaign were just mundane newsroom stuff that honestly happens all the time. Like minor miscommunications with editors, you know, with them adding a line and you're not aware of it, that happens all the time. Like, and you know, people not responding for comment or like, and you didn't even, my understanding was that piece wasn't even about those two people.
No, wasn't that
it was like a parenthetical.
No,
Like, they had no obligation to even like,
no,
reach out.
Yeah.
But you did, and you know, you corrected it, and then that's like minor bureaucratic nonsense that does not actually affect like the crux of the story, and it happens like all the time. And so what was frustrating for me as somebody who works in your industry and knows that and knows the internal workings of newsrooms is like, oh, this is clearly being weaponized as a bad faith campaign against somebody who is getting a lot of attention on social media, even though this is like the most boring shit in the world.
And I'm sure that someone's like recording this talk and gonna put it online and take, you know, has already tweeted 10 out of context quotes like that.
I don't think so. I trust y'all.
Well, no, but that's fine. I mean, that is the content ecosystem. That is what we're talking about. That's what we have to educate people about.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think
Maybe last question and then we
we're out of time. I know we're
Okay. If you
over.
have something to say, say it. If not, you don't know these people shit, you know? But we are out of time, so we're just...
Yes, and thank you guys so much. We'll be around today too.
That's what we call a panic response.